Most people believe that to gain residency in another country, you need millions of dollars, expensive legal teams, and political connections that ordinary people will never have access to. That's the familiar story. And for a long time it was true. But 2026 has changed the game. While most people still assume that golden visas are reserved for the ultra-wealthy, a number of countries are quietly opening side doors. No loud marketing, no glossy promises, but just enough for those who are paying attention to notice. In these places, residency no longer costs millions. In some cases, it costs less than a luxury car. There are countries asking for just $10,000 to $20,000. No property purchases, no job creation, no requirement to live there year-round. It sounds too good to be true. And in a way it is. Because here's the part. Most videos don't tell you the cheapest residency programs are often the hardest to escape if you choose the wrong one. One uninformed signature, one clause you overlook can lock you into taxes, obligations, and compliance rules that are extremely difficult, sometimes impossible to unwind later. This is not a game of emotion or impulse. That's why this video isn't for dreamers. It doesn't promise paradise, and it doesn't sell the fantasy of relocation. This video is for realists, people who want a legal plan B before the rules change, before doors quietly close, and before everything becomes far more expensive. Here are 6 countries that are quietly selling residency at shockingly low prices, at least for now. 6. Paraguay. If you're looking for the cheapest possible legal residency, not for status, not for luxury, but simply to secure a legitimate Plan B, Paraguay is hard to beat. This is a country where residency isn't packaged as a premium product. It's treated more like an open door for people who know exactly what they need. Paraguay consistently appears in serious relocation discussions for one clear reason: an extremely low cost of entry. Its residency program is among the most affordable in the world, and the structure is surprisingly straightforward. The requirement is simple: a bank deposit of around $15,000 held in a local account, no property purchase, no business investment, no job creation. The money isn't spent, it simply sits as proof that you meet the legal threshold to enter the system. Processing times are relatively fast, usually 4 to 6 months, with complete documentation. For anyone trying to establish a Plan B quickly, this is a major advantage compared to programs that drag on for years elsewhere. From a tax perspective, Paraguay operates under a territorial tax system. Income earned outside the country is not taxed locally, making it attractive to people with international income who want to avoid complex tax exposure. Daily life in Paraguay is practical rather than indulgent. Living costs are low. The political environment is relatively stable, and the pace of life is slow. However, the expat community remains small, and Western-style conveniences are limited compared to places like Thailand or Malaysia. This is where the fine print matters. Paraguay has physical presence requirements that are often misunderstood, and failing to follow them can create problems later. In addition, basic Spanish is nearly essential for dealing with paperwork and everyday life. Paraguay is not for those seeking comfort or luxury. It is not a lifestyle destination. It is for long-term thinkers, people who want a simple, affordable, and legal Plan B, even if that means accepting a far more minimal way of life than they're used to in the West. 5. Panama. If there's one country that can be called the most convenient option for North Americans, Panama stands out immediately. Its proximity to the United States, shared time zones, and the use of the U.S. dollar make the transition far simpler than most alternatives in the region. Panama doesn't market itself loudly, but it is highly practical. Its residency programs are designed for people who want to stay close to the U.S., maintain economic connections, and avoid extreme cultural disruption. For many, Panama isn't about going far away, it's about going just far enough. The entry threshold is among the lowest on this list. In most cases, applicants need only $5,000 to $10,000, along with proof of what Panama calls economic ties. These ties can take the form of an employment contract, a small company, or a simple but legitimate business activity. In return, the benefits are clear. You are allowed to work, you can include family members, and you can establish legal residency without waiting years for approval. For people who want to keep earning or running businesses across borders, this is a very practical advantage. From a tax perspective, Panama operates under a territorial tax system. Income earned outside Panama is generally not taxed domestically. This policy has long made the country attractive to Americans, Canadians, and anyone with stable international income. Daily life in Panama centers heavily around Panama City, a modern internationally connected capital with high-quality private healthcare and a large expat community. In many ways, living here can feel closer to Miami than to a traditional Latin American city. But the fine print matters. Residency in Panama is not entirely passive. You must continue to maintain your economic ties over time. If those ties disappear, your residency status can be affected. Security is also uneven. Some neighborhoods are safe and well-developed, while others are not. Choosing where to live carefully is essential, and cost alone shouldn't drive that decision. 4. Georgia. Georgia is a unique case on the global residency map. On paper, it is not part of the European Union, but in the way daily life functions, regulations, safety, and social norms, Georgia often feels distinctly European. The reason Georgia appears on this list is straightforward: easy residency, low costs, and minimal barriers. For years, the country has actively welcomed foreigners through relatively open immigration policies, especially freelancers, small business owners, and remote workers. You're not required to prove excessive capital or jump through complex bureaucratic hoops to stay. The entry threshold is clear and accessible. One common pathway is purchasing real estate starting at around $100,000 or establishing a small-scale business. Compared to Europe, this is a low barrier. Compared to many traditional Golden Visa programs, it's significantly simpler. Georgia becomes particularly attractive when it comes to tax policy. The country is known for offering favorable tax regimes that allow individuals and small businesses to significantly reduce their tax burden, provided the legal structure is set up correctly. For people earning online or providing international services, this can be a meaningful advantage. From a lifestyle perspective, Georgia offers a safe and affordable environment. Living costs are low, food is fresh, and cities like Tbilisi have a cafe culture and urban rhythm that feel familiar to Europe. It's possible to live comfortably without a large budget in a relatively calm and manageable setting. However, the fine print matters. First, Georgia is not an EU member state. Residency here does not grant freedom of movement or work rights within the European Union. If your end goal is EU residency or citizenship, Georgia functions more as a stepping stone than a final destination. More importantly, Georgia carries geopolitical risk. Its proximity to Russia makes it sensitive to regional tensions. While daily life remains stable, this is a factor that anyone seeking long-term certainty needs to consider carefully. Georgia is not for those who want immediate access to the EU. It is better suited for people looking for an accessible base with low costs, tax flexibility, and lifestyle simplicity, while accepting that flexibility always comes with a degree of risk. 3. Albania. Albania is one of the few European countries that still sits largely outside the public spotlight, yet it's being closely watched in Brussels. Located in the Balkans, Albania is not an EU member, but it is steadily moving closer to the European orbit, and that in-between status is exactly where the opportunity lies. Unlike many European residency programs that require large investments or expensive real estate purchases, Albania takes a far simpler approach. Long-term residency here is relatively easy to obtain and does not demand significant capital. The main requirement is proof of legal income and the ability to support yourself, a much lower barrier compared to Western Europe. In terms of lifestyle, Albania often surprises newcomers. The country offers a Mediterranean coastline, mild climate, and a cost of living that is significantly lower than Italy, Greece, or Croatia. Living near the sea, eating fresh local food, and maintaining a slower pace of life is possible without a large budget. Another advantage is the attitude of local people. Albanians are generally welcoming toward foreigners, especially those who come to live rather than just pass through as tourists. There is little pressure to integrate quickly or conform, which makes long-term settlement feel more relaxed. That said, the fine print matters. Infrastructure in Albania is uneven. Major cities and coastal areas are developing quickly, but move away from those centers, and service quality can change noticeably. Choosing where to live requires careful consideration. Administrative systems are also slow. Paperwork can take time. Procedures are not always transparent, and patience is essential. Albania is not ideal for people accustomed to fast processing and fully digitized bureaucracy. 2. Malaysia. If Dubai represents speed and financial efficiency, Malaysia represents a different kind of choice, high quality of life, while prices are still relatively reasonable. It is one of the few countries in Asia where you don't have to give up much to enjoy stability, comfort, and a lifestyle that's easy to settle into. Malaysia doesn't loudly market golden visas. Instead, it takes a quieter approach through long-term residency programs like MM2H and other visas that allow foreigners to stay for years without constant renewals. This isn't a pathway designed for the ultra-wealthy. It's a practical option for people with stable income who want a place to slow down and stay long-term. What puts Malaysia on the serious relocation map is its healthcare system and infrastructure. Private hospitals meet international standards at a fraction of the cost found in the United States, Australia, or Europe. Transportation, internet, and everyday services function smoothly, far better than many people expect from Southeast Asia. The entry threshold is also relatively accessible. Instead of requiring hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment, Malaysia focuses on bank deposits and proof of income. In many cases, these requirements are still significantly lower than those of developed countries, especially when weighed against the cost of living you receive in return. Day-to-day life in Malaysia is one of its strongest selling points. The country is generally safe, culturally diverse, and notably English is widely spoken in education, healthcare, and business. You don't need to master a new language to function comfortably, which makes a major difference for people relocating later in life. Living costs remain reasonable. Cities like Kuala Lumpur and Penang allow for a comfortable lifestyle at a much lower price than most Western urban centers without sacrificing modern conveniences or personal comfort. But Malaysia is not without its fine print. Residency policies here change more frequently than in many other countries, sometimes with little notice. This requires applicants to stay informed and flexible rather than assuming long-term rules will remain fixed. More importantly, Malaysia is not a fast track to citizenship. If your primary goal is acquiring a second passport quickly, this may not be the right option. Malaysia works better for those prioritizing stability, lifestyle quality, and a reliable place to live rather than a rapid nationality upgrade. 1. United Arab Emirates, Dubai. If there is one place in the world that doesn't try to appear cheap, doesn't need to convince you with low entry prices, and doesn't invite you to stay forever, it's Dubai. This city doesn't sell the dream of permanent settlement. Dubai sells speed, the speed of making money, the speed of building businesses, and the speed of protecting assets. In Dubai, no one asks where you're from or how strong your passport is. The only thing the system cares about is the value you bring. This isn't a place built on patience, and it's not designed for waiting around. Dubai operates on the logic of capital, where everything is measured by efficiency. Unlike low-cost residency programs that demand time, physical presence, and cultural integration, Dubai cuts straight to the core. You don't need to learn a new language. You don't need to prove that you'll live here year-round. You only need one thing: tangible assets. In 2026, residency in the UAE can begin with the purchase of real estate priced around $200,000 to $300,000 based on real market values, not glossy brochure numbers. In return, you enter one of the most tax-friendly environments in the world. Dubai imposes zero personal income tax. No tax on salaries. No worldwide income reporting. The city doesn't ask where your money comes from as long as you invest, spend, and maintain assets here. That's precisely why Dubai has become a global transit hub for entrepreneurs, investors, and individuals looking to move their wealth beyond the reach of increasingly aggressive tax systems. When it comes to lifestyle, Dubai needs little introduction. World-class infrastructure, international education, high-end healthcare, and a multicultural environment where English works seamlessly in daily life. Everything moves fast, cleanly, and with performance as the priority. But this is the fine print that many people overlook. Residency in Dubai is directly tied to your assets. Sell the property, and the residency goes with it. Dubai is not a place to live cheaply, and it's certainly not for low-income earners or those seeking a slower pace of life. Dubai is a place to establish a foothold, not to retire. A place to optimize, not to hide. If Paraguay represents a plan B for safety, then Dubai is plan A for those who want to play the financial game at the highest speed while the rules are still open. The cheapest programs are not always the smartest choices. A low entry price can make everything look simple, but the real cost is rarely visible at the beginning. What truly matters isn't how much money you put down up front. It's what you end up paying over the next 5 to 10 years in taxes, in obligations, in time, and sometimes in freedoms you didn't even realize you were giving up. Immigration rules change faster than most people expect. What is perfectly legal today can be restricted, rewritten, or quietly closed tomorrow. These doors rarely slam shut. They usually disappear without making any noise. So the real question isn't whether you should have a second residency. For many people, that answer is already clear. The more important question is whether you have enough information to choose the right one. Because a well-chosen decision can bring years of peace of mind. And a rushed decision can become a burden that follows you far longer than you anticipated. If you had to choose, which would it be, the cheapest option or the one that truly fits the life you want to live?